All right, welcome everybody to episode 44 of the Navigating Now virtual roundtable series brought to you by Thoughtium. I am Anthony Ewing. We go live every Thursday at 3 o'clock, and we bring to you leaders and topics that matter most today. And we've got an incredible leader here today, one of our most prized community members of the Navigating Now, also one of our most quoted members of the Navigating Now community. And we'll get into that a little bit today. But first, a couple of housekeeping items. First and foremost, we want to welcome everybody. We've been building this platform over the course of the last 14 months to really bring perspective, future perspective to leaders today in ways that really cut through a lot of the noise and the messaging that's happening right now in the business world. And we do that through this live platform. We share this platform with not only our panelists and our guests, but also our team here at Thoughtium and our surrounding community. And we welcome everybody who is joining in today. We go live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all social media platforms. We particularly want to welcome our LinkedIn community. We love folks who stop by in the LinkedIn feed and say hello. If you've got any questions throughout, you know the drill. You can drop them in the Zoom chat if you're a part of the Zoom webinar. You can also drop them in comments if you stop by on LinkedIn. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you say hello. And without further ado, we're going to dive in. So this is episode 44, and we're bringing back a guest that has become notorious here in Navigating Now. Tim Jones. He is a leader of so many different sorts, and I get so excited when I can sit at the table with Tim. We can do a little reminiscing. We can talk about Navigating Now, and we can also look up and out and look into the future. And we do all of those things when Tim comes to the table. Tim is a local leader here in Chicago. He's a speaker, an author. He's an organizer of community. He's a perpetuator of ideas. And he's a gatherer of some of the best people and best thinking, not just in the Chicago area, but across the entire business landscape. And Tim today comes to us with this concept of setbacks and slingshots. This is something that Tim has mentioned on shows before. And I thought that the timing was right for us to really drill into the concept of setbacks, taking losses. These are things that we've all experienced over the last year or so. And as we continue to navigate through our changing times, it's important that we acknowledge the importance of these and also the opportunity that lies behind them. And Tim has been saying this message for years, well before the pandemic, and we're going to get into a little bit of that today. So Tim, thank you for joining, and welcome back to the table.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is a second home for me, the Thoughtium family and this platform. And of course, we go way back. So this is nothing new, man.
We do. I wanted to start almost with a couple of dates because I just love when you and I get to reminisce a little bit. So I mentioned that we had you on a few times last year, and not ironically, we had you on at the very beginning of the pandemic. So April 23rd of 2020 was your first time on the show, and you were brought on with a group of leaders, and we were just figuring things out in terms of how we support our teams. And the topic was resilience. That was a big word that came through the pandemic. And that's where you had introduced the concept of setbacks as slingshots. And it was one of those moments where not just the panelists, but our audience took a collective breath, because you almost pushed back against the modern thinking that resilience is all about bouncing back. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. You came back on the show October 8th of 2020. And that was almost in the heart of our first year here at Navigating Now and at the center of the pandemic. And we talked about the concept of leave no potential on the table. I know that's a brand and a moniker of yours, but it was extremely relevant at the time, and it still is, to really challenge ourselves to, as you so beautifully put it, pour everything we have out. Mm-hmm. And particularly this last year, as time and health have been really put into our lens, mm-hmm. the opportunity to continue to pour everything we have out into our people, into our community has really become something special for us, at least at Thoughtium. But I want to go back to September 25th of 1991. And I want to maybe ask you, Tim, what were you doing September 25th of 1991?
That's funny, man. 1991 is interesting because in April of 1991, my mom had a little bit of vision and moved me and my older sister at the time from West Inglewood to Schaumburg, Illinois. So affectionately, I like to tell people I was the Fresh Prince before there. This guy went from West Philly. I went from West Inglewood to Schaumburg. And
does that make me Carlton?
No. We're gonna figure out who you might be. Jazz.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good answer.
Might be Jazz. But my life was placed in HD or 4K, whatever you want to call it. This is the first time I saw a tennis court, an Asian person, roses, a lake. Like my life was just like transformed. And as a result, I became bicultural. So many things happened. But 1991 particularly is when I left Inglewood, which is still the Inglewood of today. Probably worse when I was there. And then my mom moved us to Schaumburg to meet people like Anthony Ewing and his family.
So if that was in April of 1991, what was happening in September of 1991?
Man, September.
I mean, if you think about September, and now I'm going to preface all this with that was a fairly arbitrary date, but I wanted to get closer to the time that you and I had in our childhood, which was the early 90s, 91, 92. You had moved from the West Coast, but we in Chicago were at the precipice of 6 straight championships.
Yeah.
And in September of 91, the Bulls were probably, they had they were in the middle of their first championship year. We were glued to the television sets. And we, as 11, 12, 13-year-old boys, were obsessed with sports.
Right.
And I think that's how you and I had met. Because at the time, that's the way that you met friends. You met friends through the backyard game of football. And back then it was football. I don't care if you played soccer or baseball or tennis or golf. You were playing football with your buddies.
Yeah.
And we would play these unbelievable games of backyard football. And I will never forget. And we'll call it September 25th, 1991. It might have been one of the first times that you had come out to play football. And you had introduced myself and my friends to a style of tackling that we had never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think it was you maybe weren't the biggest kid in the yard, right, but you had the fire in your belly. I mean, you had the clout, and the way that you would tackle, and it was typically from like the knees down. You would get low, and you would almost take people's feet out from underneath them. And the first time I saw that happen, I was like, man, the game has changed.
Yeah.
This isn't flag football anymore.
Right. Yeah, man, that's from just watching the game, man. We were seeing more athletic corners at the time. Dion was like on the rise, playing 2 sports. And you just were trying to emulate what you were seeing on television and all of that. And like when you little, I mean, I was probably 70 pounds wet at that time, maybe. Mm-hmm. And so, I was coming from the South Side of Chicago. I had an edge, and you take those things out on the court or on the field or whatever. But those were good times. Yeah.
And they were so formative. I think I've asked you this before, but I'd love to just get your thoughts on, now as I won't date you, but we're the same age.
Yeah.
And you look back, you've got decades behind you, and there are parts of our childhood that are still so clear to me. And the parts of the childhood that are the most clear to me, I think, are those times, those moments, even those conversations, those highs, those lows that still stick with me today.
Yeah, I mean,
what are some of those moments for you, or what do those moments mean for you today? Are you experiencing or looking back more today than you were maybe even 10 or 15 years ago?
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, this is a reflective year for us and the people that graduated when we graduated. This is 40 years in September. So that's what that means, to just kind of look back and over each decade, over each location. And we talked about this before. I remember the surnames, right? The last names that made that journey with me. And we can yell out some last names that we remember
Let's
that
do it.
went on those journeys. But I just remember the other day playing catch with Chris Spearing.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Chris used to throw 100 miles per hour, no matter what distance he was from you. And like, that's what I remember. So the surname and then what was associated and attached to them. And as I get a chance to navigate life, you meet these people with these unique names, and you can say, this is this nationality, and it brings you back to somebody. I don't know if you remember Adil from
no.
From junior high, but people and surnames just put me back into that time that you were just mentioning. And it's all good vibes. It's all good things. Yeah. And interestingly enough, we don't talk about this enough. The world is 4/5 Black or brown, which means it doesn't look like the world when you walk through the West Loop. When I walked through some of the locations I walked through, it's vast, it's rich, it's deep, it's multinational in every sense of the word. And that's what I think about when I think about those times that we had, like what leaving Inglewood exposed me to going to Schaumburg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you don't know it at the time, but those moments stick with you. Those relationships stick with you, and you as you get older, you make more sense of them.
Right.
You make more sense of them. I realize how important it was for us to be in the backyard, a group of completely mixed individuals from different parts of life. I would say as diverse and mixed as Schaumburg can get, right, in somebody's backyard. But at the same time, our ability to welcome new people in, our ability to play a game, with folks that don't look like us, don't speak like us, maybe don't even come from families that don't believe in some of the same things. And I oftentimes think back and, obviously there's some innocence in that as well, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned in terms of, our ability to stay open, and to continue to stay inclusive. It sometimes is about calling on our childhood, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine from the LGBTQ plus community. I was joking. I was like, look, man, you guys are going to use every consonant in the alphabet because you just decided to be this welcoming community that you want to affirm and welcome and make sure people feel heard and seen and make sure all identities are welcome. That's the type of life that I want to live, where we're going to use every consonant in the alphabet. If that's what it takes for you to feel welcome, for you to feel loved, for you to feel accepted, man, come on in. And that's what this thing is about adding to the party. Adding people to the journey.
Do you think that we've gotten, and when I say we, it can be as broad as our, the human race, it can be as specific as our generation. Do you think we've gotten more inclusive this past year, which was a different year?
Yeah, it was different. So there's this term in management called symbolic management, where you have the appearance of a thing, but it's not actually a reality, right? So just because, everybody's got the little pride rainbow on their logo right now, it doesn't mean that they're inclusive and accepting of those from the LGBTQ plus community, or even during Black History Month, or even last year at this time when everybody was discovering Black people for the first time, and Simpson characters were saying, look, I'm really a white man. I'm not really the Black character that I've been portraying for the past 30 years. So that's the symbolic piece of it. But is it an actual reality? Do you know that the world is 4/5 Black or brown, and that your board should be a reflection of the globe? You say you're this global brand, but board level, C-suite, management level, it's not a reflection of that. And so, no, absolutely not. We're not more inclusive. We have the appearance of it, but we don't live it out. Living it out is hard. It ain't even expensive. It's just hard. People think it's expensive. It's just hard.
I mean, I'm assuming it's worse to hold the appearance than to just not even, like, it's worse to hold up a front, right? Than to not even do it at all.
Yeah, the NFL have on the decal of the back of all of their helmets this past year, end racism and they got 3 Black coaches, 3 Black head coaches, maybe 2, and 1 Latino. You want to end racism? Let's look at your owners. Let's look at some of their values. And so again, symbolically, great, right? Great that you have African-American performers during halftime. But what does the C-suite look like? What does that middle management look like? And I like to bring people's attention to that. Whenever I fall in love with a brand, I go right to their website and I look at their board of directors, and then I look at their C-suite if they have that up there. And then depending on what I see, I opt out. I stop spending my money with it. Now, it's a little teeny weeny drop in the bucket to them, my little whatever a year. But it's a value system that I've decided to have for myself, for where I spend my money and my dollars and my energy.
And have you been working with organizations or leaders on, let's call it real inclusivity, real shifts in behavior? And what are some of the things that you're doing to, shift real behavior and take action?
Yeah, it's interesting. My girls go to one of the largest schools on the north side, and 80% of the school is our students of color. And that's the local school council, which is like their board of directors. That's not a reflection of that. Their teachers aren't a reflection of that. So I reached out to Dr. Riskus, who's a white male, and I let him know about my observation and what I would like to do about it. I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing, Dr. Riskus, and I just want to make sure that my girls' identities are supported here as 2 young Black girls. And he heard me out, and now we just build an amazing infrastructure for diversity, inclusion, and equity, what it would mean for everyone's identity to be supported. And so I think on the lowest levels, that's where you need to start. Like, I don't have the CEO of Pepsi's number after seeing their board of directors, but I like to start on my level, and I like to go hard. If you would have gave me any pushback, I would have had to use the little bit of influence that I have, my digital footprint, and make people aware that in a global city, in a global world that we live in, this school is saying they're this, but the demographic doesn't reflect it when it comes to leadership.
Yeah. I know it's so simple, and it's been around forever, but the idea of starting local, I feel like has really made its way to the forefront of like real behavior change, particularly this last year where we've all been grounded. It's where, it hasn't felt like necessarily a global world this past year. And in my case, as somebody who, traveled a lot and felt like I had a global perspective, with me not being able to travel, my eyes were open to what I call my 6-block radius. And you and I have talked about this before. And you realize that you could live a lifetime investing in, supporting and changing your 6-block radius. You could live 2 lifetimes. And you put that up against some of the, big statement making or big aspirations that, organizations, teams, individuals are putting forward. And you realize that like the real change happens at the local level, and there's so much to do. And for us, we've really invested in our 6-block radius, particularly here in the West Loop, small business owners, diverse business owners. And you just realize there's so much work to be done. And that's encouraging, because I think sometimes we get caught up in the big statements and the headlines and having to enroll or enlist in one way or the other. And we don't realize that like you literally lift your head up when you walk your 4 blocks to work, and you'll realize that there is a small business owner, whether white, Black, brown, standing outside struggling just the same way that you are. Yeah. And that conversation, that connection that you have over 4 or 6 weeks makes real change in people. And that is one of the coolest things that for me has come out of this, is just this appreciation for my local community. And I'm wondering for you, Tim, and you can comment on that, but I'm also wondering for you, what are 1 or 2 of the best things that have come out of this last year from your perspective?
Well, first, just to address your global mindset and global perspective thought, the great Jesse Jackson says, think globally, act locally. And as much as I care about deeply what's going on in Port-au-Prince or Aleppo, there are some reflections of that as I navigate the 77 neighborhoods of Chicago. Or even as I drift outside of Chicago and outside of the state, I can find other places throughout our country that are a reflection of some of the values that I feel are being neglected in Port-au-Prince or Aleppo. And so think globally, act locally. I think I love that idea and I love that mindset. But when you talk about some of the things that have come out of this past year, I think you touched on one that I've adopted coming into the year, this idea of being open. You know, a lot of people think that last year was cursed, but it was curved, right? And the only way to handle any curve is to hold on. And not just that, you have no idea how long this curve is gonna last. So you gotta be open to it not, that path not straightening back up, or the road not being the road that you were accustomed to. And I just felt like, dang it, 2020 caught me, because all I had was a plan A. When I got to 2021, I had a plan G. Because if somebody messed with plan A, I got plan B. If somebody just so happens to get to my plan B, I got my plan C, and so on and so on. And I think, you know, plan G is actually a double entendre for my hip hop people. Plan G is I got about 6 different plans, but I'm also going to be gangster during this whole time, right? This breaking news is not going to break me. And that's what is so important about this journey that we're on. There is no news that can break us, break our spirit, break our determination, break our value system. There is nothing that can break us. Now, are there going to be some things that offset us? Absolutely. The loss of a loved one, the women that were hurt and harmed by being let go, being fired or removed or severance, whatever you want to call it, from their jobs. Absolutely, there are going to be things that jolt our spirit, but there is no such thing as breaking news after 2020.
Yeah, that's another one of those. That's just another one of those thoughts that really sticks with you about the difference between cursed and curved.
Yeah,
and your ability to lean into change, and we call it being open versus being reactive. Is that was an absolute lesson. You know, today's the topic of today is the role of setbacks in your career. And before we get into it, I'm just curious, Tim, what have you been up to? Tell us what you're up to, and even tell us, you know, what you're doing today, because I know this isn't your typical setting.
Yeah, right. I mean, right now I'm just writing, man. I'm writing a lot. I'm writing courageously. I am. I sense what's going on around me, right? I understand that folks got the breath kicked out of them, punched out of them from 2020. And I want my words to help navigate people and help give them the words to narrate their journey. So I've just been writing, and I've just been trying to make it applicable to the lives of my tribe. So that's one thing. Where I'm at today is I'm at a high school on the west side, which will graduate its 20th graduating class in North Lawndale in a couple of weeks, which is pretty important for a neighborhood like North Lawndale. But been helping raise funds for this place for over a year. And we close out our fiscal year at the end of June, and we're going to bust through our goal, and we're going to be on to the next. But I'm doing a lot of writing, a lot of reflecting, and I'm really just open. My leadership writing has taken off at this point. I do a blog every month on LinkedIn, a little over 60 blogs, but people are noticing, and done a couple conferences, virtual conferences this year. I got another one in June. And a topic that I've been really proud of, this is a shameless plug, how being mean is hurting your leadership and your team.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, this idea of how, you know, the brain processes a mean leader, it processes it as a threat to the brain. So the brain don't process it as a Myers-Briggs personality
Right.
Or this is your Enneagram number. That's why you're talking to me. No, the brain processes as a threat, and that person is going to fight, flight, and you can forget about making friends. So just really talking leaders through what it's like once you compromise the psychological safety of the people that you lead. It's not going to be easy to get them back, to reclaim what you lost. So just, I'm writing, man. I'm right.
Yeah. Well, I had mentioned to you earlier that I notice tone shifts in your writing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's intentional, but and we actually have a couple of questions coming through just about your writing and what allows you to do your best writing. But the tone shift that I've noticed recently, and I'm going to make it very clear for everybody, and this is, I think those folks who watch or tune in or who will watch this, who are business leaders, entrepreneurs, those folks, and I'll particularly call out those folks that are looking to, excited about, willing to go out on their own. The role of consistency in that ownership and that autonomy that you have as a business owner, in my opinion, is the number one key ingredient, consistency. And Tim, one of the reasons why we love Tim so much is he's just this model of consistency. So when you hear Tim talk about his writing, and he says he does a blog, and he says he's done a blog on LinkedIn every month, he means it. And if you do the math, 60 blogs every month, like, he hasn't been doing this for the last 6 months. He's been doing this for at least the last 6 years. And it's that level of consistency that, whether it gets picked up by the national attention or not, it is your brand. Consistency is your brand. You are right on schedule. But through that consistency, I've noticed, and what I love about your consistency is that it allows us to pick up on like what mood you're in and exactly what you're trying to put forward and exactly how you're trying to evoke emotion and evoke action in people. And recently, that tone that I've noticed has been a bit more of an aggressive one. And I heard you talk earlier about like, we collectively maybe have gotten a couple of punches in the mouth, and like it feels like, Tim, you're like Mickey, the trainer, like at the side of the ring, like slamming your hand on the table, telling Rock to get up.
Right.
Is that the mood you've been in recently? Because that's the way that I've been hearing your content.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a mood. I just know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to a group of people who need help normalizing and stabilizing the season that they're going through. They think they're the only one. They think they think it's breaking news, and it's not breaking news. They think it's for a lifetime. They think it's a life sentence and not a life season. They just don't understand that this is temporary, and that, turbulence doesn't mean that the plane is going down. It means to hold on. And there's a way that you hold on. And so I know exactly who I'm talking to. And leaders know exactly who they're talking to when they're leading. And that's what I love about really good leaders, that they know exactly who they're talking to. They know their tribe. And that's why you'll never see them doing like what's popping over here or what's popping over here. They are locked in, and they have this linear focus on what they're called and supposed to be doing. And so you say mood, I say tone. I think my tone sometimes changes. I'm looking at something. What did I tell somebody? Just people, just tell people to shut the fuck up. Like, look, I got it. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I have. I don't need your input. I appreciate that. And I think sometimes in our communication is right place, right time, but the last one is really important, right force. This is the year, this is the season where your force may need to change. You may need to be in turn-up season. This isn't the polite, I think my shit is good. I think this is a good place for you to come to. No, this is the best brand for this market. This is the best service for this market. Now, it's not my job to rave about the job that I can do. But my job is to be positive, patient, and consistent. That's what I've decided to do. And again, to your point, those blogs aren't for Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company to pick them up. This is for me. That person running on Lakeshore's path in January at 6 a.m., that's not for nobody but them. And their spirit is soul setting to them. And that's the same thing with my writing. No, it's the same thing, the things that you're committed to and the things that your tribe is committed to. I'm a fanatic about it for myself first.
Wow. That was, I'm sure those who are watching can see just even my reaction to the last 2.5 minutes, because I think we're literally like, we are in the cut with Tim Jones right now. And I don't want to lose it. Like, this is where you are at your best. I think it's, it's identifying patterns in people and breaking those patterns. Yep. And I think you hit at one that I think we can all empathize and connect with, which is this idea that, like, as the news cycle shortens and, as challenges come our way more frequently, I'm just curious, like, what in your experience, what is typically behind the mentality that everything's a headline and that the plane is going down? Is it because people truly believe that, or is it because there's a dependency on that type of gravity, so that we can ignore the day-to-day actions that are going to allow us to hold on and lean in and take the turn, no matter how long it lasts?
You know what it is, Anthony, is people don't have anchors in their life. And so things blow them, whether it's the news, whether it's somebody's Instagram feed that's popping like, damn, they going on another trip. Oh man, my life is, I don't have a life compared to Anthony watching his Instagram feed. But it's because they don't have those anchors in their life where they get a chance to soul set themselves. They're looking for somebody else to soul set them. And that's not the game. It's not the game for you to think, once I turn this on, I'll be soul set. Once I get into his presence or her presence, I'll be soul set. It's dark. Every good thing, every fruitful thing grows underground, and it grows in the dark. It is not something that is publicized in the guy at the gym with the big weights grunting, and you looking over, it's like, man, it's not about that. It's in the quiet place, it's in the secret place that we build these anchors, so that when life comes, it doesn't blow you over. A headline won't blow you over. The stock market flipping upside down won't blow you over. You have to have these anchors that you set for yourself. A lot of people have faith as that anchor. A lot of people have these other disciplines as that anchor, but it's really important that you have those anchors so that life doesn't just blow you where it wants to blow you, that you have some say in it. And you do have some say in it.
I love that. So, the theme of this talk is setbacks and slingshots. And I think we're getting to the heart of the psychology of setbacks and how some people just get stuck. Like, some people get stuck. We've talked about Tim's, tone and some of the messaging. And it's not just, listening to Tim. You're speaking a lot into, breathing a lot into our own subconscious. And you're saying some things that we need to be telling ourselves. And so I want to flash a couple of pieces of your writing, because, again, when Tim says that he's been deep in the writing, he means it. And I mean with an edge and a consistency that I haven't seen in you, Tim, in the last 6 or 8 years. Like, you're on point. The message is cutting through. It's getting tighter and it's getting more direct. And I want to share just a couple of your recent tweets that I know you shared on Instagram that make me stop in my tracks for sure. And I want to talk about them because a lot of them have to do with this concept of setbacks. So hopefully you can see my screen here, Tim, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Love this one. Every good comeback starts with starting over. Is that telling us that when we look at comebacks, we're not thinking about starting over? How are we looking at comebacks wrong?
I think back to just the quote, setbacks are really slingshots. And so if you're in a position, if you're down, if the clock is running out, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. It's actually a really good place for you to reset. There is no shame in resetting. There is no shame in falling back so you can spring forward. And I just think people think they're, they confuse the checkered flag is what we're all looking for. But for whatever reason, that white flag, man, when things get hard, we just think it's time to wave the white flag, and that checkered flag is just far off. And it's not far off. It's actually really close, and the game is far from over. And I know you have a tweet loaded that's a reflection of that. But this thing is far from over if you stay positive, if you stay patient, and if you stay consistent. But yeah, I think this particular post was just telling folks that there's nothing wrong with starting over, with resetting. Yeah.
I think this is another good one, and you were just alluding to this. I love when you speak again almost immediately to some of the thoughts that we will, oftentimes wake up with. And I know we can all relate to this as leaders and as humans. Waking up on the 57th day of 2021 and saying, I'm 57 days in, and I did not even come close to starting or accomplishing what I thought I was going to in the first 60. And that oftentimes enables us to go even deeper in our own self-shame and paralyze us even more. And this is you saying, break through that. Talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah, I think you made a great point. Waking up, the moment I wake up, I start talking about, damn, where's that new you that you were talking about on December 31st? Or at night, like you're sleeping you're on the couch, dozing off, and you start to reflect, and you go to a dark place, but instead of just flipping that thing and just really saying like, I'm close, I'm not crazy. What I believe about myself is not crazy. And also, despite me not being there, I'm right on schedule because I'm positive, I'm patient, and I'm consistent. And so again, I just like to remind folks that, where you are is not some foreign land. Who you are is not some isolated individual who can't just figure things out. You keep stumbling, you'll never get it right. There's this saying that dreams don't come true, they are true. And you just have to believe that. And we get a chance to run into people. I was just listening to Michael Jordan talk again on that Last Dance. Like Michael Jordan, excuse me. He believed everything that his value system was his value system. President Obama really believed that we were the United States of America and not the divided states. To find a Black man in America in that age group in particular, to really believe that all 8 years prior to that, right? This is something that's just true to them. And we all have to stick to what's true to us. And we just have examples. We could talk Steve Jobs, we can talk Jack Welch. These are individuals that had these unique, keen perspectives on, or philosophies for life. And they didn't waffle to another corner or another side of things. And we have to do that when it comes to our dreams and our ideas.
I love that. One more, and I like this one as well too. So we talk about setbacks, and here you're clarifying the difference between an idea, a business, or a relationship failing, and you yourself failing. And I know firsthand, oftentimes, an idea fails, a business fails, relationship fails, and you immediately attach yourself, your identity to that. What does this message say to your community?
Yeah, this idea that, again, don't internalize someone denying your request is not the same as denying you as a person. You still have potential. You still have a purpose. Just because someone said no doesn't disqualify you. And I just want people to know that it's not a reflection of you. It's not a reflection of who you are as a person. This season, this situation, this idea didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Not you as a total, as a human.
Yeah. Again, I mean, short but cutting and relevant. And I appreciate your writing, Tim, more than anything. And I've said this before. I appreciate the consistency with which you show up, more than the words that you put down on your tweets and on Instagram. It's almost like, you're just one of those the few individuals that truly demonstrate and model your philosophy. And I know as leaders, that's such an important attribute, is being able to demonstrate your philosophy. And again, that's an age-old theory, right? That you need to be demonstrating the type of leadership that you value and that you speak to. But it's also sometimes hard to practice. It's sometimes hard to practice, especially leaders that are motivational, and they can build a team and they can bring people in. But like when it comes down to it, their ability to model those behaviors and those practices is the best way to maintain leadership and to grow leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think it's just really personal for me. And when I do it in the morning, every day, I share a thought. I'm not thinking about the metrics. I'm not thinking like post it at 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. because people aren't. It is my job to die empty. And I've talked about this before on the show. I have gifts, skills, and abilities, and I have to get what's in me out of me, not follow some type of algorithm. I have to get the content out, and I have made a commitment to myself first that I hope people will see and make applicable to their life, make a philosophy for their own mission for their life.
Yeah.
But it's just something. Listen, man, one time isn't enough for anything. If you say you are who you are, if you do what you do, one time isn't enough. You have to show and prove every single day. There is no such thing as writer's block. We make writer's block real. There is no such thing as I don't feel like it. I did a message about my word of the day. Every Saturday I do a word of the day where I unpack one word and make it applicable to people's journey. And one of the word was feel. I've never heard someone yell out, "Oh, I feel like it. I feel like working out today." It's normally, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like being bothered. What would happen if we changed that language? Like, I feel like it. And every day I feel like writing. Every day I feel like motivating and inspiring. You can't get somebody to sit down in front of me and for them not to hear setbacks are really slingshots. It's a life season, not a life sentence. I'm almost just waiting for them to just share something where I can just say,
you can counter with it.
And they fall for it every time.
Well, that's what makes you so effective. We've got a couple questions, two of which I just think are so relevant here, and I want to bring them up. When we talk about setbacks, we talk about failures, and I've got this one written down as well too. What are some of your biggest setbacks? What are some of your favorite personal or professional failures?
Man, you guys are getting in my business with that question.
Well, listen, if you're speaking to my conscience, I gotta know who I'm working with.
Yeah, I think, I work really hard to live the life that I project and talk about. And I fight the same gremlins that people fight as well. And maybe even harder as a result of cascading this message out of leave no potential on the table, die empty. And I guess my favorite professional failure is just not really building consensus. I feel like when I have an idea, because I am who I am, I'm an ideation and innovation guy, that it's not my job to build consensus. It's not, the idea is great. What do I need to run this by everyone on the team for? And I feel like I've lost teams in that way. One team in particular, because I was speeding. And when you speed, you don't build consensus. You don't endear people to your leadership. And leadership is a game of addition. And if you're losing people, then you're not leading. You're just taking a walk with nobody behind you. And so I felt like that really hurt me, because I like to add to the team. And when I didn't do this at this particular organization that I was at, I mean, I made up for it at other places because I learned from it. That's professional. Personally, I don't know. I'm still processing that. I'm really still processing that. I have therapy twice a month.
Yeah.
And let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, you and me both. I'll maybe share one here, because I think it is a good question. And when we talk about setbacks as slingshots, one of the first steps is acknowledging the setbacks. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people even have a hard time acknowledging and giving permission to have these failures. And for me, I know personally and professionally, the setback that I'm always facing is trying to live up to other people's expectations and seeing those at real face value, and taking them real seriously. And I think that has slowed me down in the past. And that's, to me, it's interesting when you think about some of your biggest setbacks. They're not necessarily events. Sometimes they're things you deal with every day.
Right.
And my willingness to appease other people's expectations, it's pretty strong. It goes back to September 25th, 1991. And I realize that it will be a lifetime of unwinding it. That's the journey that we're on. Mm-hmm. But I just love, and I go back to something that you said earlier today, in seeing that turbulence not as the plane is going down, because even for somebody who's been dealing with this and managing this over the course of my entire life, and I'm sure you're working on things as well too, sometimes it does feel heavy. It does feel like it's the plane's going to go down. And even just like on a day-to-day basis, in those moments, I love the idea of seeing it as turbulence, of holding on and leaning into the turn, if you will, no matter how long that term might be. And frankly, it feels good to name your setbacks.
Yeah.
The best sports guys out there, and some of the hip hop artists, like, they like to own their L, right? Like that's an Eminem thing, right? Like, yeah, I did grow up in a trailer park.
Yeah.
And I love that mentality. That's maybe a little bit more of like the aggressive side of it. Mm-hmm. But I also think just being with people that you know and you love and you trust, and being able to speak to your setbacks, be able to speak to your struggles, it's so healthy, whether that's your therapist or your friends or your teammates. And I think one of the things that we're starting to realize now, as we make our way through the last couple of years, is that people are more willing to share. And we've seen those lines blur in our professional community, where people are showing up more wholly, and they're willing to share their setbacks in a way that is authentic, and in a way that you can say across the office what you're struggling with, and you've got people to help you out. So I love this topic of setbacks. I love what you add to it, Tim. I love the positivity, and I also love a little bit of the gravitas that you've been showing up with in the marketplace over the last couple of months. We have one more question I think is a good one, and we'll end there. What, Tim, do you do to recharge? I think our community is so intrigued with just the consistency of your energy. And we know that it takes a lot of energy for you to show up and to be in service of others, at all times. So, how do you, how do you make sure, I know you're so focused on pouring your cup out, but how do you make sure that, you take care of yourself as well too?
Yeah, but that's some of the foundation things that I mentioned already about faith and therapy is with respect to setbacks and losses, is I really take time to process my losses. And I've written about this, our life is not some Major League Baseball season, 162 games. Every day we have a game for the next 3 months, right? So they have a short time frame to process a loss. I'm not a Major League Baseball player. I don't have an 82 game season. I have a lifetime that I'm preparing to live out. I'm going to take my time to process this loss. And I feel like I've set up space in my life to process setbacks and losses, triumphs, all of it. And I don't think every good leader, every good humanitarian, they take time to process. They take time to think so that they can have a response, so that they can be responsive and not reactive. And I heard this said, and I think this was Seth Godin, who was probably my favorite writer. He says, there's a problem. You go to the doctor and he tells you you're reacting to the medicine instead of responding to the medicine. Those are two entirely different things. To have a reaction from the medicine and to be responded to. To be responding means your body is taking it well. Reactive, something is up, something is off. And for me, I've just always wanted to make sure that I've taken the time to process loss so that I can respond to the next setback or the next joke or how things don't go, or to a thing that may not go my way. But I'm a man of faith, so I have time. My first 20 minutes of the day is spent in prayer and meditation. I work out a couple times a week. I'm monitoring what I put in my body from a food standpoint. I'm monitoring what I read, watch, and listen to. So I really don't know what's the hot Netflix show. Because I like to monitor what comes in. I'm addicted to social media though, so that's a problem. I'm addicted to my phone. It's probably my first brain, not even my second brain. But those are some of the things that I do to recharge. Of course, family and friends are really important to me. But I think those things that are soul setting are the times where I'm still, are the times where I'm talking to a higher power, are the times where I'm talking with someone to help me hear my thoughts, the therapy 1 to 2 times a month. And those things are non-negotiable, particularly if you're leading, right? No, you won't, one time won't be enough. You can lead one day, but without those anchors set up to soul set you, you're going to burn out.
The term "you are right on schedule," on the other side of "you are right on schedule" is a real quietude. And I've even consumed that term, whether it's in your feed or in your word of the day on Saturday. Sometimes I'm like actually in bed waking up and I'm watching your word of the day live. And when you say you are right on schedule, on the other side of that is nothing. Right. And that can be really uncomfortable. It's quietude. And that's what we're not used to. Yeah. And that's the discomfort. And I love that, part of taking care of you for you is sitting in that quietude, sitting in that nothingness.
And the last thing, because I know we got to go, but that statement, "you are right on schedule," depending on who you are, it's either something that, okay, it makes you smile, or it's like, I got to get on my shit. I haven't been focused. I slacked off and did it 1 time instead of 3 times this week. And it's just it's one of those statements where it fits wherever you are in life. And we are either ahead or behind. You ain't either winning or losing. You either ahead or behind. You are right on schedule.
It's incredible. We will end there, but I want to, before we sign off, Tim, I want to thank you. And I never get enough opportunities to do this, particularly for just humans like yourself in my life, and I know in our community, such not only a breath of fresh air, but like really, really a tool that we've been able to tap into for our own development. We have come together as a team here at Thought Team around some of your content and some of your methodology. And I really do hope that the community can really appreciate all that you do to pour into it. I know that at least ours really, really does, because anytime we have you on the show, we get so many comments about, people tuning in. The other thing that I'll remark on is, you talk about September 25th, 1991, and, the handful of years, and it was years, that you and I knew each other through grade school, junior high, high school. That's a good, 8 years there.
Oh, yeah.
You and I have been reconnected here just in the past 2 years, 3 years. And what I've, been able to learn from you and what we've been able to accomplish together far, far exceeds anything from, the 10 years that we spent together as children. At the same time, I want to thank you for being a part of my childhood in a way that I probably didn't even know at the time. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you for being a part of my life today, because I wouldn't have guessed back in 1991 that you and I would be connected this way, and that I would be learning so much from you in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. Outside of how to tackle somebody from the knees down. Yeah. I continue to learn from you every day, and I appreciate the consistency with which you show up in my life and our communities. And I want to thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad we're reconnected. I feel like we always finish with this bromance, but people, your people don't know this. This is the reason why Anthony doesn't have hair. I got like a minute to shoot it. Because he used to be a goalie in high school that played with his hair on fire. And at one time, he was a catcher in baseball that played with his hair on fire. So just think of those two examples. Somebody that's playing the bat and they get a chance to see the entire field. This is what this guy is doing still to this day. He gets a chance to look at an organization, look at a group of people from a perspective, from a view that nobody else has the view that a goalie has. Nobody else has the view that a catcher has. Nobody else on the field, maybe the other goalie, and for the soccer analogy. But this guy. He's got a big head with a big perspective. I'm just happy to be connected to him.
I'll take big perspective. I'll take big head with a grain of salt. I love you, brother. I'm so happy to be in your life, and I'm so happy that you're in ours. Thank you again for showing up, and this will not be the last time.
Thank you for your perspective, man.
That's awesome. All right. So what an episode, man. We love Tim. We love the energy that he brings. This won't be the last, but we roll on. And every week we have a new leader at the table. Next week, we've got Kaylee Linville Caruso. She is a leader that recently transitioned from the startup space to large enterprise. And she's going to add some perspective on that journey and how to navigate going from small to large. She's going to be a great guest with a new perspective. And we offer these perspectives every Thursday at 3:00. We go live on LinkedIn and YouTube. You can register for these talks at thoughteum.com/live, or you can just join us. /live is the place to be, where you register or watch for free. We appreciate everybody stopping by today. Tim, thanks again. And everybody have a wonderful rest of the week. So long.